I think of Sisyphus. In Greek mythology, Sisyphus was a deceitful and shrewd king. He maintained power through cruelty and always found a way to subvert punishment and accountability for his actions, even escaping from the underworld multiple times. His sharp mind became his undoing as he antagonized and made enemies of the gods themselves. In time, he landed himself in the underworld permanently. No more tricks, no more sleight of hand, no way to outfox the inevitable. For his hubris, Sisyphus was cursed with an impossible task: push a heavy boulder up to the top of a steep hill. Inevitably, as Sisyphus came close to achieving his goal, the boulder would slip out of his grip and tumble back to the bottom of the hill, where he would have to start again. And there he toiled and continues to toil on one impossible task for all eternity. I think of Sisyphus and, in a strange, broken way, catch myself envious of him. Time loops have long been a comforting concept to me. Even if I were stuck in a single day, think. The thrill of being able to experience as much as I could in that single day, the safety of knowing that the same morning awaited me at the end, being able to truly see 1,000 permutations of the same day, living in that state of expected serenity day after day. Fascinating, exciting, and calming all at once. Just think, especially in the world we live in now, a repeating loop of time where you have access to the world's knowledge and all the time in the world to harvest it. But in the last many years, with the rise of time loop-based games, I began to wonder if it was all wishful thinking. Could living that life or that non-life still be what I hoped it could be? How long would it take before that feeling of variety on one stage melted into monotony? How long until I could exhaust all options? How long until the new day, my innumerable days, became unbearable? How long until my own humanity would wane in the face of eternity? What is the purpose of living out the same day, the same time, over and over again? When? How quickly? By whose hand does the dream I get to live become a waking nightmare? I think of Sisyphus again, doomed and damned to that same cyclical experience, that unchanging sky underground, always going up the hill, back down the hill, up, down, up, down. The loop is a punishment reserved for those who beget suffering in life, themselves most deserving of suffering. The loop is a form of hell, of suffering, whether at the start when all we want is to move on, or some way through when the fascinating becomes a chore. When do we start staring at the boulder on our way up, imagining faces in it, grasping at the minuscule, hoping for something new? Overboard puts players in control of Veronica Villancy, a socialite who's vying to get away with murder after flipping her no-good husband overboard on the last leg of a transatlantic journey. Veronica is bound to fail her quest at first, but finds herself back in her cabin the morning after she saw to her husband's demise. Employing this loop, she learns more and more about the other passengers and the otherwise damning evidence throughout the ship, how to manipulate it, misdirect the passengers, and play them against one another. In time, Veronica may learn how to incrementally get away with murder, get her husband's life insurance payout, and do away with a vile blackmailer. Or maybe she gives up and launches herself off the ship to regrettably join her rotting husband. Or maybe she just loses it, throws everyone overboard, and turns into a dolphin. You do you, Ms. Villancy. But every time, whether her efforts end in victory or defeat, she wakes with a start in her cabin, forced to relive the most daunting day of her life. She never snaps back to before launching her husband overboard. It's always after. She can never take back the decision that sets her on this mad quest to divert suspicion. She is always on the defensive, always trying to cover her tracks. Even in the situations where she wins, it doesn't break the spell, as it were. She wakes right back up in her cabin, having recently thrown her husband overboard, and is doomed to forever try to get away with murder. 12 minutes is a different kind of punishment. A husband returns home to his wife before an intruder breaks into their apartment, threatening the wife and killing the husband. The husband loops back to walking into the apartment that night, no more than 12 minutes prior. If he dies or is assaulted within those 12 minutes, the loop resets. If he leaves the apartment, the loop resets. If he tries to wait everything out, the loop resets after 12 minutes. While the husband strives to figure out the mystery, the loop rapidly becomes unbearable, not for its inescapability, but its scope. 12 minutes. We don't even think about 12 minutes most of the time. That's nothing. Blink and you miss it. To be locked in a time loop is one thing to consider, but to be locked in such a narrow loop is a different nightmare. There's no time to make the most of it. By the time you try, it's already time to start over. But everything starts to click into place, even in that narrow time limit. The husband is trying to solve the mystery of what's going on, but realizes all too late that solving the mystery doesn't lead to escape. Who he is and what he's done has already laid the groundwork for his punishment, and now he's just bouncing between the 4 prison walls of his own making. But then there's Link, the perfect archetypal hero of Hyrule and beyond. The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask gives us Link after the events of Ocarina of Time, accidentally stumbling into an impossible situation. Save the land of Termina in 3 days before the moon crashes into the town and razes the entire region. His situation is not a punishment as the other examples, foisted upon them due to their actions and legacies. Link's punishment stands aside because it's entirely self-inflicted. Consider this. Loops in the other games happen independent of both player and character. But in Majora's Mask, players, and by extension Link, choose to travel back to the start of those 3 days. Some of this can be chalked up to the kind of character Link is and the kind of game he is found in, a hero's journey. The quest must be completed, the citizens must be helped, the world must be saved. And so, with the moon bearing down on Termina, Link sends himself hurtling back in time. He initiates the loop, he perpetuates the cycle, he begets his own punishment each and every time. His knowledge and awareness remain, but everyone else just starts back at the beginning of those days. Their troubles remain, their grief remains, their ignorance to what awaits them remains. Link has already hurtled back and forth in time after the events of Ocarina of Time, but where he kept pace with the world before, now he's the only one growing around it. And aside from the mechanical, so there's a game to play, why does Link do it, keep subjecting himself to the same days again and again? Is it because he believes he can save everyone? Because he thinks it's his duty even after everything he's been through already? Can anyone in that situation truly help everyone, save the land, and still be who they were when they became lost in the woods to begin with? To be trapped by forces out of your control is one thing. But to feel trapped by your own sense of obligation, of duty, of a destiny you never asked for, that's a different brand of punishment entirely. What is the purpose of living out the same day, the same time, over and over again? When does the dream I get to live cascade into something with more potential than life has the capacity for? I think of Sisyphus, again, humbled by his centuries of toil, truly changed by what was once a punishment. Introspective, softened, kinder through all of that time to reflect. As Sartre suggested that hell is other people, the judgment of others and of ourselves, perhaps hell is simply oneself and one's thoughts, but not as a traditional punishment. Perhaps it's an opportunity found by those able to move past the initial feelings of rote and monotony and instead see a chance to be more, to do more, not out of necessity, but out of desire. It's a chance to be better while functionally more immortal than we were or could be in life. Here lies that fantasy of eternal life, even in a single day. What would we become if we could remember ourselves, our journeys in the loop? My friend and I fantasized about this after watching Palm Springs, especially watching as one of the protagonists used that time to learn about and manipulate quantum physics in an effort to escape the loop. In opportunity-based time loops, the loop may initially be seen as a punishment, but that melts away with the hope of something better coming from it. To learn things, to solve a mystery, to be forced to grow, all in the hopes of manipulating what one has discovered to improve both themselves and even just a part of the world. That's the opportunity. Oxenfree is a paranormal adventure full of smaller time loops that make 12 minutes look like a luxury. But at its core, it hides the major time loop in the closing moments of its narrative. The protagonist, Alex, has just done some wild paranormal island mystery solving. As she returns triumphant to the mainland, explaining how everything went with her and her friends after that trip, she's getting ready to head to the ferry, to head to the island. Starting over reveals that Alex is confused and unsettled, as though she'd just done this before. Exploring the island again reveals pockets of distortion between now Alex and another Alex, seemingly interacting between loops. Dialogue choices made in the past loop resurface in the current loop, and Alex and the player may find themselves guided by those past loops to optimize the current loop. Whatever form that takes, like saving or sacrificing characters, maintaining or destroying relationships, it's up to Alex to inevitably pull the ripcord and attempt to break the loop once and for all. By reaching out past the loop, she can communicate with herself before she's jumped onto the ferry, potentially breaking the loop, but sacrificing any of the positive changes she made in her journey. Will new Alex remember everything old Alex had to do to give her that chance? Is it one loop that Alex keeps cycling through, trying desperately to communicate with herself, or many adjacent loops with many adjacent Alexes? Will old Alex even exist to enjoy the fruits of her struggle, or does she cease to be? Did Alex just free one completely separate iteration of Alex, or did they fully cut off the loop by preventing it from ever starting? Is it enough to know that you have made a difference, even if it's impossible for anyone to express their thanks for it or even know the difference? Oxenfree doesn't say explicitly, but it relishes in the opportunity, with literal self-guidance, for some iteration of Alex to grow from their repeat trips to the island. In the Forgotten City, the protagonists find themselves hurled back in time, exploring a sparsely populated subterranean Roman city. At first, they, and players, know very little, but by the end of their first run-around, they know the basics. 1. If anyone violates the Golden Rule, the city's statues come alive and freeze its inhabitants in gold. 2. The protagonist can travel back to the start of the day after the Golden Rule has been enacted, provided their knowledgeable ally is alive to open such a portal. And 3, someone is responsible for triggering the Golden Rule's inaction. The initial goal is clear. Find out who's triggering the rule and report back to your ally to try and prevent the city's destruction. You learn about the citizens, their habits, the quirks of the city itself. Doing so takes you all across the city, meeting those same citizens, learning about their lives and concerns, living in a constant state of paranoia about the Golden Rule. But not you. As long as you're quick on your feet, you'll be able to run back to the city temple, avoid judgment, and go back to the start of the day laden with new knowledge and insight. In time, you'll be running out of a portal like a veritable oracle, grabbing the shoulders of the first guy you see, giving him a laundry list of things to do to prevent tragedy throughout the city, and sprinting off to go do some other mystery stuff before they even have a chance to ask your name. Deeper and deeper the rabbit hole goes, but it's not a sense of dread or punishment awaiting at the other end. Genuine curiosity and mystery have long since taken over. You continue to learn, to interact, to discover the inner workings and history of the city. Each new loop begets new knowledge and understanding, making the protagonist that much more powerful in both knowledge and perspective. And in the end, the protagonist is freed, liberating the city's denizens along with them. By that loop, after so many before, the protagonist rolled out of a portal, gave a quick "here's how to save everyone" spiel to the poor schmuck standing near the portal temple, and walked right into the central monument before God itself seemingly decreed that the Golden Rule was being put to rest. For all their loops, all those repeated conversations and events, the protagonist learned enough to stand against God and convince them that they, in all their wisdom, were wrong. Lastly, there's Outer Wilds, putting players in the shoes of a space explorer in a small solar system. On paper, it seems similar to 12 minutes. After 22 minutes, the system's sun goes supernova, wiping out the entire system. You can try to outrun it, or you can accidentally beat it to the punch and launch yourself straight into the sun, but all roads lead to the same. A final breath, and then a sharp inhale as the explorer wakes up on their home planet again. But again, it feels less a punishment and more an invitation to solve the mystery. Why is the sun going supernova? What can we do to stop it? What were the ancient civilizations trying to accomplish now that we can decode their language? Each journey out into the system has the potential for knowledge and learning, all stacked on top of one another. When you learn how to manipulate light, space, and certain elements, it opens up other pathways elsewhere in the system. Object permanence, black holes, individual planets' layouts, biomes, and secrets, audio tracking. Everything is a mystery that begs to be solved, and the loop grants the explorer what they need in order to solve those mysteries: time and life. As they learn more, the explorer more efficiently journeys the system, cracking open its mysteries bit by bit, finding where and how they all connect. Everything comes to a head, and with all that they've uncovered across 100 loops, they are presented the greatest opportunity. All because they were given a mystery to solve and time to solve it. Opportunity takes many forms, but by the hypothetical power granted by such loops, more can be made possible than ever thought before. What is the purpose of living out the same day, the same time, over and over again? When does the dream I get to live stop being a dream? When does it begin to simply be? I think of Sisyphus again, beyond acceptance, beyond death, beyond fear. No growth left to be had, no introspection. This is it for him, now and forever. Him, his thoughts, his labor. No changes, no surprises. The punishment has melted away. He has taken the opportunity to become more, and now he simply is. He has attained a serenity, wishful in theory, even if fully unattainable in life. In the early throes of COVID-19 in 2020, I felt that strange sense of calm serenity, removed from the worst of the pandemic as I was. I was working in college housing. We had sent all the children to their own homes, and then we just were. We had access to food, our electricity continued to run, and the school year was only partly over. Every day was largely the same, Monday to Monday. Things became routine. My staff would check in with each other. We would try to find work for a little while. There's not much to do in our sector without students. We would play games, go for walks, rest for what seemed like the first time since we started working there. Every so often, I would venture out to the grocery stores and get food for everyone. On our evening walks, we would see the same people at the same time doing the same thing. The roads were empty more than they were driven on. It was repetitive, and it was beautiful. For the backdrop of a global pandemic, I had never felt more peaceful. Every day was the same. True, rote consistency beget true peace. In the end, because I knew what to expect, everything just came easier. Elsinore presents a new interactive experience of Shakespeare's tragedy, Hamlet. Ophelia, an otherwise minor character in the play, becomes aware of the tragic events and is subsequently locked in a 4-day time loop. At the end of 4 days, if nothing is done, Hamlet will have killed many, he will have died, and the castle will fall to invaders. Controlling Ophelia gives her and players the chance to alter that canon narrative, setting new events into play. Prevent Hamlet from spiraling into a murderous rage, or tempering or refocusing that rage, doing the murdering yourself, running away from Elsinore entirely, surrendering the city to invaders, or even just consigning Ophelia to her original terrible fate of drowning. But the more one plays, the more they explore, the more it becomes apparent that these are all just roads that converge in one point. Not invasion, nor death, nor simply the canon, but instead, tragedy. All endings, all routes that Ophelia can tread cost something great, either to herself or those she loves. Her life, her prestige, her innocence, her family, sanity, peace, stability, or her very humanity. Something core must be sacrificed for a greater good, a simple release, or a personal desire. Everything Ophelia can do is with the underpinning of tragedy. She can escape with her family, but they will become destitute. She can run away with a new lover, but knows that he will leave her in time. She alone can survive, but at the cost of everyone else's lives. She can trap the omnipotent stage master in the same loop, but will never find release herself. The story is a tragedy. Even with all of the meddling and changes, it can be nothing but. But in that recognition of exploring all of those possible outcomes, perhaps there is a shred of comfort. We can flavor the inevitable, but we cannot change the dish. We can adjust actors' lines, but we cannot change the play. There is relief in knowing what to expect, no matter how we try to mix it up. Not so much defeatist as it is ultimately accepting, serene in what we know awaits us. Perhaps what a relief to know that no matter how he adjusts his poise or changes his approach, Sisyphus's boulder will always roll back when he gets close to the top. Not a matter of if, but when. Certainty that begets serenity.
Back at the beginning again.
What is the purpose of living out the same day, the same time, over and over again? I think of Sisyphus again. As much as I love narrative endings, I fear my own ending, my own mortality. Even on the days when life is its most difficult, the uncertainty of death, the finality of everything that I know, all that I've ever known, is the thing that frightens me most. But I know as objectively as I can that it's only by having had a life at all that I fear death. Only by having existed do I fear non-existence. That's why I love the concept of time loops so much. It's just a chance to stave off the inevitable and maybe be better for that extra time I had. I used to think the point of time loop games was to find the perfect ending, just the right combination of choices and domino effects that would lead to the best outcome. Not so much anymore. It's less about the ending and more the journey. Those loops can be a curse and a punishment on some creature for some sin that they can't even fathom. Or they can be a chance, an opportunity to grow past what they are and into what they are truly capable of. Or maybe it's just a series of webs spiraling out from a central inevitability. Sometimes it's a matter of circumstance, sometimes perspective. When does that window of relived time begin to falter into monotony? Perhaps only when we resign ourselves to it. What do we do when we've exhausted all options? Perhaps we create our own from there. When do we lose our humanity in the face of eternity? Perhaps only when we decide to. What is the purpose of living out the same day, the same time, over and over again? Perhaps that depends on the person. Our drive in those games may be dictated by narrative, but in the end, we're all just pushing, carrying, or dragging that boulder up the hill over and over again. Up and down, loop upon loop upon loop. Maybe we make it to the top of the hill. Maybe we don't. Maybe we wish we hadn't. And maybe, just maybe, we're simply content seeing beauty in the mountain, in the horizon, in the boulder itself as we continue our journey up and down, up and down.